Hi, my name is Tamara, and you are watching Things Even a Monkey Should Know. Hello! Thank you so much for joining me again today. As you know, if you've watched some of my other videos, I'm not a professional anything except artist, but I have learned there are a number of things around the house and out in the yard and on my cars that I can do myself and often save myself time, money, and aggravation. So I hope you have saved all of those things down too and maybe learned a little bit along the way. Well, if you tuned in last week, you'll know that I unexpectedly had to split last week's video into two videos because last week was just getting way too long. So we are finally doing all the finishing touches to our dining room chairs. And I know this has been a really long journey, and I'm so happy and thankful that you have come along this long way with me. It was a really big project, which is why we have so many videos on it. I hope that this has made it easy for you to see that you can actually do all of this stuff yourself too. So let's get started. If you have any more wrinkles you want to get out, if it's possible, go ahead and do that. But otherwise, it is time to pound in any staples that you missed. If there's any place, you should have for sure 2 staples at each leg, at each point. If you have more wood available to staple into than I do, then I would definitely do a 3rd staple where possible. Okay, you ready to cut off our excess fabric? We're doing it just like we did the batting, just cutting it up close to the edge of the chair, just like this. You need to have whatever finishing accents you want for your chair. So I wanted a nail's head look that went all the way around the chair. But let me tell you, I do not want to do each individual nail because that would make me crazy. There aren't many things that would make me crazy. That would do it. So I found these really nifty strings of nail heads that actually turn out really nice whenever they're applied. And you can't tell that they're not real. How do I know this? Because my husband is a real stickler for this kind of stuff, and he doesn't know that these are not real nail heads. He might now. I just gave myself away. It is time to do our little finishing nail head touches. Make sure that you have all these little pieces around your legs and everything trimmed. And as I mentioned before, Mr. Monkeys does not know that these are not real nail heads. I feel pretty good about using them. So these have little holes right here. See that little hole? And that's where you put an actual nail. And then you have a few you skip, and then you put another nail, and that really helps to keep them wonderfully straight. So I like to start in the center. And you notice I have not finished shrinking up or getting out the remainder of my wrinkles yet, because I've discovered that I just wind up having to do things twice. Plus, these nail heads help to get some of the wrinkles out. So we're just going to go ahead and start somewhere in the middle. You want to be sure that you get it beaten into the actual wood, and all that I am doing is just following the very edge of my chair. And I'm going to follow the very edge all the way around. Now that we have very excitingly gotten to the point where our chair is basically finished, but we want to do some nice final touches. We have 2 more steps. Do you remember that pattern that you made a couple of videos ago to cut out your foam padding for the seat of the chair? We are now going to use this, and we're going to bring it over here to where we have our sheer black fabric laid out. And the purpose of this fabric is to be stapled underneath our chair just to tidy things up a little bit. We are now going to trace around that paper pattern that we made. See, it's good for more than just one thing. We're going to cut out this pattern, but we're going to cut it out about a 1/2 inch inside of this line, because we don't actually want to cut the full size, because then we'll see this underneath the edge of the chair, and we don't want to see it, because the point of this is to hide some of the raggedy edges on the underside of the chair, not to make raggedy edges that you can see from the outside. Now obviously this is not going to fit on here perfectly because we still have some legs in the corners. It fits everywhere else. You can just stretch it and make sure. So we want to go ahead and mark these where we need to make some little cutouts in these front 2 corners so that we can cut that out and get this to finish fitting perfectly. And now finally we should have a good fit on this, and we're just going to use our staple gun. You do not have to staple everything out of this. Just staple it enough to keep the fabric in place. Just pull it a little bit tight so that it doesn't sag down below the chair, and we are going to start from the middle and head toward one edge or the other, and then go in the opposite direction just like we did when we were doing the cotton batting. Now that we have the underside all finished and pretty, our last step is to get rid of this little bit of wrinkling that we have on each side. And if you have fabric, you shouldn't have this problem. But if you have anything vinyl or leather or anything else plasticky, you probably will have this problem. So the way to do this is to blast it with heat, either from your hairdryer or a heat gun, as we talked about before. I prefer a hairdryer because it doesn't get as hot, and there is the chance that if you get this too hot that it will melt. And with leather, there's a chance if you get it too hot that it could burn, or scorch rather. One other option that you can do is take wet cloths that you put in boiling hot water and drape those across this too. That will also make this shrink up. Personally, I do not want to put water around this wood because there's a good chance that it could damage the wood. So this is my weapon of choice for this particular part of the process. I want to stop right here and point out that it is not going to shrink up while you're putting the heat on it. It will shrink as it cools. So what I have found works best for me is to give it a good blast of heat, turn it, move to the other side, and then see how it looks whenever I turn it back around and see if I need to hit it with a little more heat. Okay, I have to just briefly interrupt myself right here to tell you that after this chair, my hairdryer pretty much went so I didn't have another hairdryer. And I needed to I wanted to go ahead and get these chairs finished. So what I wound up doing was taking a towel that I totally saturated and then wrung it out and I put it very carefully just on the vinyl fabric that was wrinkled on these chairs. And then I used an iron set on whatever the setting is right below cotton, and I ironed it, and that actually worked quicker, and it seemed a little less dangerous than using a heat gun or whatever on the chairs. So I just wanted to share that with you in case you do not have a hairdryer, but you do have an iron and a very wet towel. Make sure you don't get the water on the wood, because then you'll be fixing even more stuff. But just keep it on that fabric, and it actually works really well. Pretty happy with how this came out overall. There's a little bit of a wrinkle there that I couldn't get out. That was my fault for not taking care of it earlier, getting a little tighter. But other than that, I am pretty happy with how everything came out. I am so excited to be at this point. This was chair number 4, but I actually have already done 5 chairs at this point. Wanted to make sure I had a good little bit of experience before I started trying to tell you what I was doing. Now, as you can see, if I can do the upholstery on something like this, you definitely can too. And hopefully you choose a fabric that's a little more forgiving than what I chose, because I can see my mistakes that I've made. Mr. Monkey's no, thankfully, cannot see them, so he really is very happy with what I'm doing. I'm super excited to have revived this old table and chair set, because it's a very classic looking set, and you know, I'm putting kind of a wild fabric on it just for some fun and to give it a little pizzazz. Thank you so much for watching again today. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do that now. Thank you so much to everybody who already has. I look forward to seeing you all again soon.